named Helgi. I'm from Buren County, and I've been a beekeeper for 2 years. And today, I would like to share with you how to catch a swarm of bees. First of all, I'd like to talk to you about the necessary tools for catching a swarm. First one is the smoker. So the necessary tools, the first one is the smoker. The smoker is the most important tool to a beekeeper. The reason for this is that it calms the bees when we're working with them. We are not exactly sure why it does this, but our hypothesis is that when we smoke them, they think there is a fire in their home and they engorge themselves on honey to try and save it. If any of you guys are wondering how I wear my smoker, is inside of this lid there's a fire chamber, and I prefer to use newspaper, denim, and wood pellets to start my fire. And once I get a good fire, it starts to smoke when I push this. And once I get a good thick smoke, I go ahead and shut my lid, and I'm ready to smoke my bees. Next one is the bee suit. The bee suit is the second most important thing to some beekeepers. I prefer to use a full bee suit and gloves for full protection. Okay, so the bee suit is the second most important thing to some beekeepers. I prefer to wear a full bee suit and gloves for full protection. Some beekeepers, like my mentor, he wears nothing at all and just smokes his hands and just goes out and starts working with his bees. However, I am not that brave. This is my bee suit. It is a European style, which means that the veil is oval. I like this because the veil is close to my face so I can observe my bees easier. And another good quality about this bee suit is the Velcro flap. This is a good quality for this bee suit because where the zippers meet, they don't close all the way. And I've actually had a bee go up inside of my veil when I just was wearing one, just a veil, when I was working with my bees, and I had to stop everything I was doing. And it took about 15 minutes for my mom to smoke the bee off of my face. Another good quality about this bee suit is the elastic loop. It goes around my thumb, so when I'm working with my bees, my sleeve doesn't ride up, or when I'm trying to put on my super long gloves, it doesn't go up all the way and then I'm not protected. So, now that I've talked to you guys about all the necessary tools for catching a swarm and how to use them, are you guys ready to learn how to catch a swarm? Can't hear you. You guys ready? Yes! Okay. So, the first step to catching a swarm is to lay down a white sheet. The reason for this is so that you don't lose the queen or any of the worker bees in the grass. I prefer to use a white sheet so that I can see the bees easier. And it has always worked for me. And I've got a lot of the worker bees because without their home, they will die. Okay, second step to catching a swarm is after you lay down your sheet, you want to set your box on the sheet, and then you are ready to smoke your bees and shake them in front of the hive. I prefer when I set my box down on the sheet to take off the lid and a couple of frames so that the bees have more room to enter into the hive. catching a swarm is when you shake the bees in front of the hive, all of the worker bees will follow the queen right into the hive. If it is an old queen, she will have her full scent and the bees will follow her right in. But if it is a new queen who has not mated yet, she will not have her full scent and the bees will not be able to smell her as well, and it'll take longer to try and get the bees into the hive. Just like all of us have our own unique fingerprints, each hive has its own unique scent. So until a queen is mated, she won't have that whole full scent, and then the bees will sit around trying to fan to smell her and they won't be able to. Bees enter into the hive, it looks like water flowing into the hive, and I think it's the most amazing thing as a beekeeper to know that all those thousands of bees can trust one little queen bee to follow her wherever she goes. The fourth step to catching a swarm is after all the bees have entered into the hive, I think it's a good idea to smoke them one last time to make sure they're very calm. After I've done this, I put back in my frames and put back on my lid, and if I have to move them, I stick newspaper and screen inside the entrance and wrap it inside of the sheet that I used earlier that I laid on the ground. And one time we had to bring home a swarm from the neighbor's house, and my mom wasn't a real big fan of having to put the bees in the back of her Jeep. Swarm season. Swarm season usually starts in April and ends in May. The swarm that you see in this tree here was one of the first ones that I caught this spring, and I actually have a funny story about it. One day my mom got a call from the neighbor and he asked me if I had lost any bees, and the day before that I actually had a swarm inside of a tree, but I couldn't retrieve it yet because I didn't have a box to put them in. And as we were coming home with the bees, my mom looked at me and said, "I never thought I'd see the day that the neighbor would call and tell me to come get my bees. It's usually a cow or a goat or something like that." The next swarm that you see is a swarm on the post. That was the hardest swarm I had to catch because of the way that they're on the post. It's hard because you have to use a soft bristle brush like this, and the way they roll off of the post when you're brushing them, they're off into big balls, and when they hit the ground, they kind of just go all over the place, and it's hard to get them to go inside the hive after that. Okay, this has been How to Catch a Swarm of Bees. Are there any questions? Yes?
Have you ever got stung?
Actually, when I just had a veil around me, I did get stung quite a few times, but now that I've got my bee suit, I haven't really been stung. Any other questions?
What made you become interested in becoming a beekeeper?
The question was what made me interested in becoming a beekeeper. Actually, I was at a flower show one year, and my mentor was there, and he had an observation hive with his bees in it, and I was watching him, and he was explaining things about them, and it just really I was really interested in it, and so I went to one of the meetings, and I actually got a scholarship and started in beekeeping. Any other questions? Yes?
Where do you take the bees after you catch them?
The question was, where do I take the bees after I catch them? I have a cement slab where an old grain silo was, and I have a little flower garden there, and usually I just set them there. But if there's a big patch of clover in one of our pastures, I take them there. That way they don't have to fly as far to pollinate. Any other questions? Yes?
So there's a swarming season?
Yes. That usually starts in April and ends in May. around in there.
I was in Mount Pleasant, two blocks from here. A week ago. Dropped in the week, and they're all, she said, "No, I'm not doing that."
Mhm.
It was an enormous storm. I believe wherever she's at, it's very released.
Okay, the question was what causes bees to swarm? There are different things, but usually it's either overcrowding inside of the hive, or the queen bee is getting too old to take care of that hive, so she lays new queen cells on the bottom of the frames, and just before the new queen is about ready to hatch, she takes half of the worker bees and goes and finds a place to swarm, and usually they'll land on the first place and then move someplace else to stay.
This particular bee has a real small swarm. What do I do? Anything you do this time of year?
I've never really had to do anything like that. I would personally just grab a box and stick them in there and see if they make it. Any other questions? Thank you everyone, and I hope you all have a beautiful day at the fair. Thank you.